Well, another subject Obama touched on at his talk in London was the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership deal. It aims to boost the economies of the EU and the US by reducing barriers to trade and foreign investment. But some people in Hannover in Germany don't support the idea. These are live pictures of a large demonstration which is taking place in the city. Now, critics say it would lead to lower standards of consumer and environmental protections. There's also concern it will give business groups too much influence over new regulations, which the protesters say is undemocratic. Well, Natalie Powell is in Berlin and joins us now with more on this. How large is this protest likely to get, and exactly what sort of groups and people and individuals are protesting here?
Well, police are currently estimating that there are around 25 to 30,000 people on the streets of Hannover for this demonstration. The organisers say that it could get as large as 50,000 people, and it's largely made up of trade unionists, of consumer groups and environmentalists. We've even seen the Farmers Union roll into Hannover with their tractors for this protest. Now, of course, it's against that TTIP agreement, which would become the world's largest trade pact and is expected to give EU economies a boost of around $120 billion. However, we are seeing a lot of protests and demonstrations against this agreement in EU countries, particularly here in Germany, with Germany being Europe's largest economy, because there are major concerns that what this agreement will do is give far too much power to big multinational companies, and that will take away power from the individuals here in Europe and indeed the workers and a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises as well. Now, the other thing that they are majorly concerned about as well is the fact that a lot of the discussions around the TTIP agreement have been done behind closed doors, and they are saying that this lack of transparency, quite frankly, isn't on, and they want far more transparency when it comes to the agreement.
Are protests of this type, are they likely to have any impact whatsoever, do you think, on the eventual deal?
Well, we've seen several protests like this throughout the EU. What the protesters will be hoping for is essentially to try to slow down the discussions. We know that President Obama will be meeting with EU leaders at a summit on Monday following his opening of the Hannover Trade Fair, and the TTIP agreement is likely to be high on the agenda there. If protesters are able to slow things down, however, that could be potentially interesting, because we know that this deal needs to be done before the end of the year. It is President Obama's pet project, essentially, and it's him that's really pushing for it. We've also heard from people who may potentially take up the reins after him, after his presidency ends, particularly Hillary Clinton, who doesn't actually seem that interested in pushing this forward. So if this deal is to be done, it needs to be done before the end of the year, and potentially the discontent in European countries, particularly here in Germany, if they're able to slow those discussions down, well, that may mean that that does indeed derail this entire pact.
Natalie, thank you very much.